Chapter 63, 21 April. Letter from Hermione Granger. Letter delivered to the Granger residence, Crawley, England by Owl Post, Saturday 21 April 2012. Dear Mum and Dad, I'll have a longer letter for you tomorrow, but I had another question for you on Harley's behalf. Harley asked her dad about what you mentioned before, about maybe changing schools next year. Her dad is concerned about her being so far away and needing so long to send letters back and forth. But he's willing to hear her out about maybe staying at Hogwarts, and right now, he mainly wants more information about magical education before they make a decision. Do you still have the information packet Professor McGonagall gave us about our options for magical education? If you still have your notes, those would be good, too. I know Harley's dad wants to compare Hogwarts with the school in America, so I think those would help. It's selfish of me, but I really hope Harley stays at Hogwarts. She's my best friend, and I don't think I would have made it as far as I have here without her. And I know she doesn't want to leave either, so I hope she can convince her dad. Love from Hermione. Chapter 64, 22 April. Letter from the Doctors, Granger. Letter delivered to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Sunday, 22 April 2012. Also included, pamphlets describing Hogwarts, Beauxbatons, and Ilvermorny schools, British Ministry of Magic Regulations on homeschooling, an IQA pamphlet titled Best Practices in Magical Education, which contains few specifics, but which regards formal academies as a minority position in favor of homeschooling, tutoring, and small group instruction. Several pages of handwritten notes about magical schooling, dear Hermione. We've sent you all of the documents and notes we had about magical education, although we couldn't fit an appraisal of magical education in European an envelope, so these are just the overview. Of course, we don't know what the American system is beyond the pamphlet about Ilvermorny. The IQA pamphlet seems to suggest that homeschooling is more common globally, but Professor McGonagall said the options for Muggle-borns in Britain were very limited. You said Harley was Muggle-raised, and her father is a Muggle, so she might have the same problem. It's understandable that you want your friend to stay with you, and it sounds like Hogwarts has been good for her, too. We hope she and her father can come to an agreement. But even if she doesn't stay, you should have some other connections there now, so we're sure you'll do well for yourself in the coming years either way. Love, Mum and Dad. Chapter 65, 23 April. Letter from Harley to Privet Drive. Letter delivered to number 4, Privet Drive, Monday 23 April 2012. Delivered through the mail slot by a Hogwarts school owl in the same manner as Hollis first the Gwart's letter. Dear Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia, do you have my original birth certificate in the house? The school needs it for some paperwork, and it would be easiest if you could just mail it to me. They said you should have it. If you do, please send it back in the enclosed envelope. Thank you, from Harley. Chapter 66, 27 April. Letter from the Dursleys. Letter delivered to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Friday, 27 April 2012. Delivered by Owl Post after being bulk transferred to the Hogsmeade Owl Post Office from the Strand Post Office in London. Also included, a birth certificate for Harley Potter. We received your message and enclose your birth certificate, though we don't know why your school needs it after all this time. Your balmy headmaster was the one who gave it to us with that letter when he left you here. Don't lose it because we're not paying to get it replaced. From Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia. P.S. Ask them if you can stay at school for the summer while you're at it. Chapter 67, 27 April Roman 2. Note from Hagrid. Note sent internally at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Friday, 27 April 2012. It's hatching. Chapter 68, 27 April Roman 3. Harley's Diary. From the Diary of Harley Potter. Hagrid's dragon egg hatched today, and I think Hagrid's gone mad. He sent us a note at breakfast telling us it was hatching. Hermione insisted we go to herbology so it wouldn't look suspicious, but me made it down to Hagrid's hut just in time to see it hatch. Except I'm pretty sure Malfoy overheard Hermione and Ron arguing about it because when we went down to see it, Hagrid spotted him spying through the window. I don't know what we can do about that. If he tells anyone, they can just come looking and they'll have Hagrid dead to rights. And we might be in trouble too, at least with the school. I don't know how that works. But we can't really stop him, can we? I don't think Malfoy's told anyone yet. I haven't heard Aura's or whoever coming up to the castle about an illegal dragon or anything, but that might take a couple days anyway. I don't know if he's waiting for something, if he wants to lord it over Hagrid or even us. Malfoy's never liked Hagrid. Even when we met in Diagon Alley, he didn't like him. He called him a wildman and said he kept setting his house on fire, which is ridiculous. I've never seen Hagrid set fire to his house. The only time that's been a risk is now, with the dragon. Maybe that's what he's waiting for. If the dragon burns down Hagrid's house or endangers the school, Hagrid'll be in a lot more trouble, and he'd be more likely to get sacked or arrested. We have to convince him to get rid of it somehow. We only really got to see the dragon for a minute before Hagrid saw Malfoy. I thought it looked kind of ugly, but I can't tell Hagrid that. It had big orange eyes that were kind of baby-like, but its wings were too big for it, so it looked more like a crumpled black umbrella than a reptile. And it sneezed out sparks, even though it's not supposed to be able to breathe fire yet. But Hagrid thought Sparky was adorable, of course. He tried to pet it and said, "Bless him, look, he knows his mummy." But it just tried to bite his hand. I've heard that's supposed to work with baby birds, but it doesn't look like it does with dragons. I wish I could tell my dad I got to see a baby dragon. He couldn't help, but he'd probably think it was really cool, or dangerous, or both. But it's not really dangerous yet. It's just a massive pain in the arse because I just know it's going to get worse. We have to convince Hagrid to let him go somehow, but he wouldn't hear it, even after Malfoy saw it. I don't know how everything went so mad at Hogwarts. It was all so great when I first got here, except for potions. But then Snape tried to kill me, and he wants to steal the Philosopher's Stone. And the only thing that's stopping him is Quirrell, and there's no way that'll end well. And he must have tried to rob the bank too. Hagrid's trying to raise a baby dragon, and he might get arrested, and I'm sure Malfoy's trying to make it happen in the worst way possible. My dad wants me to leave Hogwarts, but I don't want to leave my friends here. He wants me to tell someone about Snape too, but I'm worried what Snape will do if he finds out. He must have fooled all the other teachers about the Philosopher's Stone already, even Dumbledore. Except Quirrell, but Quirrell's too scared of him to do anything. And I can't tell Dad about any of this other stuff, because he's a muggle and can't help with anything magic, and it'll probably just make him not like Hogwarts more. I don't even know why it feels like such a big deal. It's not like Hermione or Ron are telling their parents anything about this, but I don't know what else to do. Hagrid's no help. He doesn't believe us about Snape, and now he's gone dragon mad, and I'd still love Hogwarts. All that made it sound like I don't, but I do. If Snape and Malfoy weren't here, it would be perfect. Everything else is great. Well, if Snape and Malfoy weren't here, and Hagrid had some more sense. But if I didn't have to worry about Malfoy, that wouldn't be a problem. I'd have the time to talk some sense into him. Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia sent me my birth certificate, so that's something. It's lucky they had it and didn't throw it away, because I wouldn't have known where else to look for it. I didn't see any kind of papers or anything in my Gringotts vault, and I don't know what happened to my parents' stuff after they died. Anyway, that should give Dad all the paperwork he needs, but even then, it sounds like it could take a while. He thinks he can get custody of me within a few days, at least, but what if something goes wrong? It's sure to be more complicated than usual with him being a foreigner. And there's that problem with the magical adopting, where the paternity test doesn't look normal. He says he'll take care of that, but I don't know what a judge would think about it. I might have to write to McGonagall or Dumbledore for help if that doesn't work. And then there's the fact that he seems to be rich, and the Dursleys might think it's worth trying to keep me if they think they can get some money out of it. Could McGonagall or Dumbledore help with that? This is getting into the Muggle courts a lot, and I don't know if they even do that. Maybe it would be better to write Hagrid if the Dursleys are a problem. I know for sure I can scare them. Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia asked if I could stay at school for the summer. I wonder if I could trick them into signing custody papers end of custody papers and have them thinking it's for the school. I'll have to ask Dad in my next letter. It's getting awfully close to the end of the school year, too. Counting off the days, it looks like I'll only have time to send him 2 more letters and still give Hedwig time to get back, which is fine. It'll be way better to see him face to face, but it means we're running out of time to plan it. I don't know if it would work, though. If I owled the real papers to them, they might read them, if I even had the papers. It might be better to meet them at the train station and just not let on that Dad's rich. And even if all that works, I might still have to go back to the Dursleys until the custody hearing. It probably won't be so bad if it's only a few days, but what if it takes all summer? I don't want to have to wait another year to live with my dad, plus the Dursleys will hate it. The passport really might take all summer. Hermione travels overseas, and she says it takes weeks to get a passport processed. Now I'm just rewriting stuff I wrote last week, and there's still nothing I can do about any of it. Chapter 69, 1 May, article from the NYT. Article published by the New York Times, Tuesday, May 1, 2012. Arc reactor for Stark Tower to switch on Wednesday. Tony Stark says his newly upgraded green energy arc reactor will make Stark Tower fully independent from the electrical grid. Tony Stark, president of Stark Industries, C, plans to switch on his new prototype arc reactor on Wednesday, which will provide a fully independent and self-sustaining power source to his newest building, Stark Tower, located at the site of the former MetLife building in Manhattan. According to a press release from C Monday, the building will be taken entirely off-grid and will serve as proof of concept for its new green energy product line. To mark the occasion, this will be the first time that the large Stark logo on the side of the tower will be lit up in a nighttime display. After tense negotiations with the mayor's and governor's offices last year, the reactor was built on Roosevelt Island and then lowered underwater in the East River to provide a heat sink. The published specifications state that the reactor will be able to run Stark Tower for at least 1 year continuously, without refueling or maintenance. As part of the agreement with the city and the state, C will begin constructing a larger, grid-scale reactor on the grounds of the Indian Point Energy Center, whose pressurized water reactors are scheduled to shut down in the next few years, immediately upon completion of a successful test. The first arc reactor was built in 1965 by Stark's father, Howard Stark, along with Obadiah Stane and Anton Vanko. It used a unique palladium-catalyzed warm fusion process, the details of which remain classified. Independent attempts to replicate the technology with the cold fusion process were made from 1989 to 2004, but were ultimately unsuccessful. While Howard Stark initially advertised it as the future of energy technology, the technical limitations of the palladium process ultimately proved its downfall, as it was neither scalable nor cost-effective. While Howard Stark's prototype arc reactor continued operating at C's headquarters in Los Angeles, it was a largely forgotten technology until 2009, when Tony Stark successfully miniaturized it to power his Iron Man suits. In 2010, C announced the synthesis of a new element that could be used in the arc reactor, which was cleaner and more efficient than palladium, finally making the technology cost-effective. This element, with atomic number 126, is provisionally known as unbahixium, but has not yet been given an official name by the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, EUPAC. Stark has registered a trademark for the element, calling it badassium, but this name was rejected by both EUPAC and the U.S. Patent Office. The latter decision was made on the grounds that the element itself could not be patented, but only the process used to make it. While Stark has invariably expressed optimism for the project, many leading economists have considered the arc reactor to be a last-chance effort for the company. C, which was previously one of the U.S. Defense Department's largest contractors, nearly went bankrupt in 2009 when Stark attempted to shut down the company's weapons manufacturing divisions following his abduction and escape from Gulmira, Afghanistan. Stark later exposed that Stain, his longtime partner and Thenku, had been selling Stark weapons to the 10 Rings and other terrorist groups under the table. Over the 3 years since his announcement, C's subsidiaries and secondary product lines, as well as court-mandated fulfillment of its existing contracts, have kept it afloat. But experts say its future will remain uncertain until the arc reactor becomes a proven technology. "It's really a make-or-break moment for him, isn't it?" said NYT columnist and CNBC anchor Andrew Ross Sorkin on Squawk Box Monday night. Stark would have gone under already if the courts hadn't forced him to finish his DARD contracts before he shut down his factories. Iron Man or no Iron Man, he's never going to be able to stay in the black without a new lead product line. Stark has repeatedly refused to release his Iron Man technology to any outside entity, including the US government, citing the damage that it could cause if it fell into the wrong hands, although confidential sources have claimed that he loaned a suit to the US Air Force last year. Economic views on the arc reactor have ranged from skeptical to cautiously optimistic throughout the construction process. However, problems of scalability and distribution remain at the forefront for many. Paul Krugman, writing for the NYT on Sunday, stated, "If the arc reactor works as advertised, it will certainly be a revolution in green energy. A fully arc reactor-powered electrical grid alone would reduce global carbon emissions by 30 overnight. But we can't lose sight of the other half of the problem. Will this technology be deployed where it's needed most? Is Mr. Stark willing to share his technology with China, which is now the world's largest emitter of CO2? Will he make the investments needed to supply electricity to developing nations, where the return is less certain and the grid infrastructure may not be adequate? How will customers pay for the expensive and proprietary unbahixium catalyst, which despite C's marketing is still a consumable in the system? All these questions must be answered before Stark's proposed green revolution can truly begin. In response to these criticisms, C's CEO, Virginia Pepper Potts, stated in a press conference Tuesday, "We don't see any reason to worry about distribution in the foreseeable future. The technology has been proven in the small scale, and the efficiency only increases with size. A Stark arc reactor will pay for itself in just a few years almost anywhere in the world." Tony Stark was not present at the press conference. However, in response to questions about sharing the technology with China, he gave a comment to Christine Everhart off Vanity Fair, saying, "We've been giving reactor-grade uranium to non-nuclear powers for decades, and this is safer than that. Has it been perfect? No, but we already have the model, and we've learned from our mistakes. We've got this." In addition to the contracted Indian Point reactor, C has announced plans to construct 3 more arc reactor-powered buildings at unspecified locations. Chapter 70, 2 May, Letter from Holly unopened. Letter delivered to Stark Tower by Owl Post, Wednesday, May 2, 2012. Unopened. Also included 2 copies of a passport photo for Holly Potter, a bundle of documents relating to magical education. Dear Dad, thank you for explaining about Jarvis. I was confused because you really made him sound like your persona human. I probably shouldn't judge, seeing as we have things like talking portraits who do things like that. There's one guarding the entrance to the Gryffindor dorms. I asked Professor McGonagall, and she said Madam Pince, the librarian, knows how to take passport photos because other Muggle-born students need them too sometimes. I put in 2 copies with this letter. I think they follow all the rules you sent me. I'm writing my aunt and uncle to ask about my birth certificate today. I don't know if they have it. They always told me I was left with them with nothing but a letter, but they've lied about stuff like that before. I hope they got hold of it at some point for benefits or something, and that they don't have a problem sending it to me. The story I told them was just that the school needed it for some paperwork. Anthith's school said they should have it. The last time they ignored a letter from Hogwarts, it ended with Hagrid breaking the door down, tying Uncle Vernon's dodgy rifle in a knot. Just ignore that. No one got hurt. The point is they'll probably be too scared to ignore this one. If that doesn't work, I'll try asking McGonagall or Dumbledore. I just hope it didn't get lost somewhere along the way. I hadn't thought much about how long the paperwork will take. I don't want to go back to my aunt and uncle's house while we're waiting if I can help it. Especially if I have to wait for a new birth certificate or something, but I'd still rather not, even if it's just a few days. Do you know if there's any way around that? The statute of secrecy started in 1692. It didn't have to do with the Salem witch trials, though. It was the earlier ones in Europe, mostly. Even before that, I think wizards mostly kept a low profile, but you'll probably find historical records from before then. I talked to Ron and Hermione, and they reckon you probably shouldn't try to go to the leaky cauldron by yourself. Hermione says Professor McGonagall gave her parents anti-muggle charms that let them see the pub. Without those, she doesn't think you'll be able to get in without a witch or wizard to guide you. And Ron says a muggle snooping around outside would be suspicious, so they might call the Ministry of Magic. If you can actually get inside, I think they'd let you into Diagon Alley, but it's not worth the trouble if they catch you outside it. Percy didn't know the address of the MACUSA headquarters in New York, but it'll have all the same problems anyway. You won't be able to get in the magic entrance on your own. Plus, he says Americans are stricter about secrecy, so it'll be even more suspicious if you start snooping around. I know you really want to get more information about the magical world, but it'll be safer if we just go to Diagon Alley together in June. The Professional Quidditch League has 13 teams in it, which, now that I think about it, is probably most of the witches and wizards in Britain Howanto play. That would be a lot of players for how many wizards there are, and there are 4 national teams who play in the World Cup. Quidditch has a World Cup just like football does. I don't know much about the teams, though. Ron's a fan of the Chudley Cannons, but they're terrible. They haven't won the league in about 100 years, and Fred and George reckon they've been cursed. And unlike a lot of the things they say, I believe them. They say their little sister likes the Holyhead Harpies because they're the only all-witch team. Other than that, I don't know much besides what's in Quidditch through the ages, but I thought the Wigtown Wanderers sounded kind of interesting. They started as a family team, which is neat. Thank you for hearing me out about Hogwarts. I promise I'll look over all my options this summer, but I don't know if there are that many of them. Hermione's parents sent me pamphlets about Hogwarts and the French school Beauxbatons. I don't speak much French, though, and the American school Ilvermorny. There's stuff about homeschooling and tutoring too, but it sounds like that's harder for Muggle-born and Muggle-raised students because of the rules about doing magic outside of school. They didn't have any information about the rules in America, though. I'm excited to finally meet you in June. Even if the paperwork takes a while, it'll be great to finally be able to talk properly. I suppose Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon will still have to be there to pick me up if you don't know how long the paperwork will take. Just try not to be intimidated by Uncle Vernon if you meet him. He shouts a lot, and he might raise a fuss if he wants money, but he cares too much about his reputation to get caught fighting in public. Love, Harley. Chapter 71, 4 May. Letter from Ron Weasley, date sent. Letter from Ron Weasley to Charlie Weasley, Friday, 4 May 2012, date sent. Dear Charlie, I have a big favor I need to ask of you. See, Hagrid managed to get himself a dragon egg somehow, and then it hatched, and now he's trying to raise a baby dragon. He even named it Norbert of all things. Norbert the Norwegian Ridgeback. We don't want Hagrid to get in trouble with the Ministry of Magic, but it took Harley, that's Harley Potter, a week just to convince Hagrid to let it go, and it's going to be hard to get a baby dragon out of this place without being noticed. We thought maybe you could take care of it and put it back in the wild. Can you do it, please? If you do, you better do it soon, though. Norbert's growing fast. Plus, Draco Malfoy's already seen it, so we have to get it out before he tells one of the teachers. Love, Ron. Chapter 72, 6 May, Letter from the Doctors, Granger. Letter delivered to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Sunday, 6 May 2012. Also included, a printout of a BBC News article describing the Battle of New York. By coincidence, the words Stark Tower do not appear in the article. A rushed copy editor, worried that British readers might not be familiar with the geography of New York City, described the wormhole as being near the Chrysler Building. This was changed in later versions of the online edition. Dear Hermione, we don't know how much news you get from the Muggle world. It's possible this has already gotten to you through that magical newspaper. Thedley Prophet, we think it was. But we think you probably wouldn't have heard, and you really need to. Something impossible happened yesterday, Friday, and that's us who have seen magic saying that. Yesterday, there was an alien invasion in New York City. Yes, aliens from another planet. We don't know why they were here, and neither does the news, but they were shooting people and destroying things, so everyone thinks they were trying to take over the world. We say were because they were defeated, and the wormhole that was open to their planet was closed. Everyone says the danger has passed, so you shouldn't need to worry for now, but no one knows what might happen next. We're sure we sound mental to you right now. Even knowing about magic, this is a completely different impossible thing that neither Professor McGonagall nor your letters ever hinted about. But we sent you a printout of an article about it to prove it happened. Granted, even the news articles don't agree on precisely what happened. What we do know is that the aliens were sent by someone named Loki, like the Norse god. He first appeared in Germany on Thursday night, where he did some stuff that looked like magic. He was going to attack a crowd of people, but he was stopped and captured by two superheroes. One of them was Iron Man, and the other one looked like Captain America from the history books. But Loki must have escaped somehow because the next day he was in New York and opened a wormhole to let the aliens in. But then there was a whole team of superheroes there to fight them off. They're apparently called the Avengers. Iron Man and Captain America were there again, and so was that green Hulk monster who showed up a few years ago, and some others. One of them was shooting lightning, and they said his name was Thor. They stopped the aliens from getting too far into the city, and then Iron Man shot a missile through the wormhole, people say to destroy their mothership or something, and that stopped them for good. We're sorry, we don't have more of an explanation than that. The articles have more, but nobody really knows much for certain right now. There's a lot of speculation online that the ancient aliens people are right, and that Loki and Thor were their Alnorse gods. There's a town in New Mexico that claims Thor visited them 2 years ago. And there are ridiculous conspiracy theories, like the US military shooting the missile-elite New York City to stop the aliens, so Iron Man saved the city. We don't believe any of them, for the most part. If Thedley Prophet reports on it and says different, there's every chance they're right. Although you shouldn't believe everything they say, either. We thought that you should be fully informed of all this, and please stay alert. We just found out we're not alone in the universe, and no one knows what's going to happen next. We don't mean to scare you, of course, but it feels like the world is in anything can happen territory right now. Well, our world is in anything can happen territory. Maybe you should ask your teachers if wizards know anything about aliens. Love, Mum and Dad. Chapter 73, 6 May Roman 2, Interlude, Hermione. When Hermione Granger woke up on Sunday morning, she was expecting it to be just another ordinary day of revising. She got dressed, went down to breakfast with her friends, and awaited the owl post, since her parents' letters usually came on Sundays. Sure enough, one of the school owls brought a letter to her, but today it was a significantly fatter envelope than usual. Curious, she opened it and found some kind of printout folded up inside it, along with a letter that was marked with "Read this first" in Sharpie. That was a little bit concerning, she thought. Had someone died? She couldn't remember her parents ever putting that kind of label on a letter, but she dutifully opened it and began to read. When she got to the end of the second paragraph, she had to read it again. Then she read it again. Then she read it again, and her mind still wouldn't accept it. She was just about to open the other printout when a loud voice sounded across the great hall. Bloody hell. Space aliens are real. The uproar started slow, confused, but it started to rise quickly as more people opened letters and newspapers. It was soon clear that many Muggle-borns had been sent letters today, and they weren't the only ones. "This is impossible," said Seamus Finnegan, who was looking at a copy of Thedily Prophet. "Me dad says people who believe in UFOs are barking." Hermione stood from her seat to look across the table. Seamus's newspaper bore the headline, "Iqua calls emergency meeting," above a moving photo of something big and flying. "Hermione!" She jumped and spun around to see Dean Thomas had been looking over her shoulder. "Did you get anything?" "It looks like my mum hasn't written me yet." Holly was at her other shoulder now. "Hermione," she said, "what's going on? Why is everyone talking about aliens?" By way of answer, Hermione opened the other printout from her parents, and they all stared. It was an article from BBC News. Thishard line read, "Alien attack. Battle in New York." And in case that wasn't clear enough, a subhead actually read, "This is not a joke." Below that was a half-page image of an enormous something, half whale, half robot, and probably 200 feet long, that had been photographed in the midst of crashing down across the roof of a tall building. A cloud of dust billowed around it in a way that looked unsettlingly like the footage she had seen of the September 11th attacks. "Aliens," Hermione said weakly. "Aliens, New York," Harley said in a small voice. "Holy crap, that's real," Dean started babbling. "What happened? How bad is it?" "Are they coming her? Me parents," Hermione said. She quickly picked up her parents' letter again and checked to make sure she'd read right. "My parents said it's over already. They drove the aliens off." "Bloody hell." "What is that thing?" Ron was standing now and also looking at the photo, not seeming to care that it wasn't moving. "Hermione," Harley called again, and Hermione suddenly saw that she was shaking and rapidly turning pale. "That was New York," she said. "New York City," Hermione gasped in realization, and Ron looked at Harley with dawning horror. "Oh, Merlin," he said. Your relatives." Hermione spoke over him, shooting him a sharp look. There was no need to make this harder for Harley. "What?" said Dean. "Her American relatives." Hermione spoke loudly enough for anyone who was trying to listen in. "They live in New York." "I'm sure they're fine," said Percy Weasley, who had approached to see the source of the commotion. "Macusa is very well protected. They can take care of their own." "But he's not the," Harley stammered. "Harley," Hermione whispered, leaning close. "I don't think this is the right place." And before Harley could protest, she led her out of the great hall. Hermione looked around as she left. Several other students were rushing out of the hall themselves, perhaps to write to their parents about what was happening, as was Professor Quirrell. She looked up at the high table. Professor Dumbledore wasn't there. He'd probably been called away to the Iqua. Professor McGonagall was grim-faced and in deep conversation with Professor Flitwick as they read a copy of Thedily Prophet. Professors Vector and Babbling looked to be interrogating Professor Sinistra on what she knew about aliens. Snape, of all people, had descended from the high table and was reading an article that had been sent to a Ravenclaw prefect while asking her rapid-fire questions. And Charity Burbage, the Muggle Studies teacher, looked like she was trying to organize an impromptu class lesson. "Sorry," Hermione said after they passed into the entrance hall. "I thought you'd want a little more privacy." Harley sniffled and nodded. "Hermione, it's really over already." "That's what they said." How bad was it?" "I don't know. I haven't got that far yet." She pulled out the BBC article again and flipped through the pages. There were a lot of photographs. A giant portal hanging over the New York skyline. A picture of some kind of armored humanoid being with gray skin and a futuristic ray gun driving something that looked like a Star Wars speeder bike. and several photos of the superheroes who the article said had saved the city. Iron Man flying through the air in full armor. The green monster people called the Hulk. Another man who looked a bit like a Viking, and a picture of three people on the street. A fairly normal-looking woman, an archer, and a man in a costume she recognized as Captain America, even though he was supposed to be long dead. It says they're called the Avengers, Hermione told Harley. They saved the city. But how bad was it? She insisted. How many people? I'm looking, there. The current death toll stands at 430, the vast majority of them New York police officers and National Guard soldiers. Thanks to the decisive actions of the city's defenders, fewer than 100 civilians have been confirmed dead. Well, that's not so bad, mean. It's terrible, of course. But in a city that size, with a literal alien invasion. But my dad. I'm sure he's fine, Harley, Hermione said, though she was failing to project confidence if she were honest. They could both see the lead photo just fine, the alien monster crashing down on the roof of a skyscraper. But he lives in Apent House, Hermione, Harley moaned. That's at the top of a building, and that thing, Hermione put her arm around her as she started to cry. Well, can you write? Hermione started. No, she cut her off. No, I'm still waiting for Hedwig to get back. When? I'm expecting her. Harley screwed up her face. I'm expecting her no earlier than Friday, but that means she counted on her fingers, then counted again. She would have got to New York last Wednesday. That's 2 days before the attack, she said, speaking very fast. If Dad sent her back right away, he would have written his letter before it happened, and I still won't know. And if he didn't, then Hedwig was still there, and what if something happened to her? What can an owl do in that mess? If something happened to her, I wouldn't even know. What do I do? What do I do? Roman, to think. Harley was trembling and breathing very fast. I think I'm taking you to the hospital wing, Hermione said, after a moment's hesitation. She was going to hyperventilate at this rate. What? No, Harley, I think you really do need the hospital wing this time, Hermione said firmly as she started to lead her in that direction. There's only so much you can do right now. You won't get very far in this state. When they reached the hospital wing, Harley was still whimpering and unsteady on her feet, and upon arriving, Madame Pomfrey took one look at her and immediately ushered her to a bed. Goodness me. What's wrong, Miss Potter? She asked. She's had a bad shock, Madame Pomfrey, said Hermione. Are you injured? Pomfrey continued, waving her wand over her. Harley sniffled and shook her head no, even as Hermione said, It's not that kind of shock. Is this about the, even Pomfrey's voice quavered. News, Harley nodded shakily. What is it? Harley looked over at Hermione, and Hermione looked around the infirmary in case anyone was listening in. Is this confidential? She asked. As long it doesn't endanger anyone, of course, Pomfrey said. I'm a professional, Miss Granger. Hermione looked back at Harley, who was struggling to speak, but nodded. Then Hermione took a deep breath and said, Last summer, Harley learnt that James Potter wasn't her real father. Madame Pomfrey dropped her wand. He wasn't, she gasped. But then Lily thought the timing of their wedding was odd. Beauty apologized, Miss Potter, but it really wasn't him. Harley sniffled and shook her head, and Hermione explained. It's a long story, and I don't know all of it myself, but she found out at Gringotts last summer. Ron knows, and Hagrid knows, but that's it. But the most important thing is, she found out her real father is still alive. Madame Pomfrey nearly dropped her wand again. Hermione could understand why Harley wasn't comfortable telling people about this if this was how they reacted. As famous as she was in the magical world, it was sure to be hard when it finally came out. I've been writing to him for months, Harley stammered, finally finding her voice. But he lives in New York. Oh no, with Macusa, Madame Pomfrey asked. Harley shook her head again. He's a muggle. And well, Hermione said, and she held up the photo from BBC News. Merlin's beard, Madame Pomfrey exclaimed. Excuse me, Beauty didn't look that bad in the Prophet. It sort of wasn't, Madame Pomfrey. The death toll wasn't nearly as bad as I would have expected. but he lives in a penthouse, Harley said. A flat covering the top floor of a tall building, Hermione clarified for her. We don't know what happened, and I don't have any way to talk to him. Her owl might have been in New York at the time, too. Madame Pomfrey stood up. I think I've heard enough, she said. Miss Potter, I'll fetch you a calming draught. Physically, that and some rest should be all you need. She disappeared into her office and returned a minute later with a potion in a phial. She handed it to Harley, and Harley drank it rapidly, after with a strangely blank expression flitted across her face. That soon subsided and shifted back to nervousness, but she wasn't panicking anymore. Thank you, Madame Pomfrey, she said softly. There we are, Pomfrey told her soothingly. Now, I'm afraid tracking down a muggle in New York City is a little above my pay grade. You might be able to ask Professor McGonagall or Professor Dumbledore when he gets back, if you're willing to tell them about your situation, of course. But until then, you should just rest, and you can stay here as long as you need. Chapter 74, 6 May Roman 3, Dumbledore's Notes. From the personal notes of Albus Dumbledore, file on Harley Potter, Sunday, 6 May 2012, kept in shorthand. Sadly, even Hogwarts is not untouched by the destruction in New York. Minerva reports that Harley Potter was led to the infirmary quite distraught by Hermione Granger at breakfast. Poppy, as is her wont, reported nothing except that Harley needed rest and is in no danger, but I think the cause is obvious. The gossip in the school for some months has been that Harley has been in contact with her distant cousins, the Potters in America, who are well known to live in New York. I admit I would not have expected the news to affect her so strongly. Certainly, the attack was alarming, but her reaction is out of proportion from what I would expect of pen friends. I can only think that it is related to her unusually strong reaction to the Mirror of Erised at Christmas. Her desire for family is even more desperate than I expected, and she has latched onto the only connections she could find. I will inquire with the American Potters, while I am traveling, so that if she doesn't hear from them herself, I can give her a hopefully positive report upon my return to the school. Chapter 75, 6 May Roman 4, Harley's Diary. From the Diary of Harley Potter. 6 May, I reckon I should write something down here, even though I don't have any idea what to write. What are you supposed to say when space aliens invaded New York and you don't know whether your father is alive, and you won't know for at least 5 days? I'm only even calm enough to write this because Madame Pomfrey gave me a calming draft, and I'm not sure if I actually like it. It just feels weird that Ishud freaking out about this, but I'm not. Maybe if I were just panicking about exams or something like some of the older students do, it would be better, but a calming draft doesn't exactly solve my real problem right now. I still feel like I'm freaking out a little, but it's not the same. New York City was attacked by bloody space aliens. I thought I'd seen everything after I found out I was a witch, but Hermione says it's not that bad, and Dad is probably fine. She's probably right, even. She's right that it was a lot less deadly than it sounds. I think about 10 times as many people died in the September 11th attacks. So the odds are pretty good for him, but I can't know until Hedwig gets back. If she gets back. She might have still been there too, and she would have been in just as much danger. And I've still got 5 more days until she can make it back. I sent my last letter on 23 April, so with a 9-day trip each way, she would have got to New York on the 2nd, which was 2 days before the attack, and that means the earliest she can get back would be the 11th. But that wouldn't exactly be good because it wouldn't tell me anything, because it would have meant she left before the attack. That would be good for her, of course, but I won't know if Dad's okay until I send her back again. If I want a real answer, then I actually don't want to see Hedwig again until the 13th. And then I don't want it to go past the 13th or the 14th either, because that would mean more waiting. I hope he's okay, but he lives in a penthouse, which is probably the worst place to be in something like that. I don't know what I'll do if something happened to him. I can't even think about going back to the Dursleys right now. I can't believe just yesterday I was only worried about how long the paperwork would take. I don't know what happens if I don't even understand what happened. Space aliens. How? Why? The article said someone called Loki was behind it, and some people think he might have been there a Loki from the Vikings. Hermione says he was the Norse god of mischief and lies, which sounds even crazier than magic and space aliens and stuff. It must be really serious, though, because Dumbledore was called away for an Iqua meeting about it. I wish there was something I could do, but I don't know what I could. Even if I could get back to the Muggle world, I don't know Dad's phone number or email. I have his address, but Hedwig would probably be back before Muggle Post to New York could get there and back, and that's if the post is even running in New York. Maybe I could look up the address on a computer, but there probably won't be news about that specific building. It's like all I can do is wait. Wait for Hedwig to get back. Wait for Charlie to reply to Ron. Wait for Snape to steal the Philosopher's Stone. Wait for something to happen so I can actually do something, or even know something. But I'm stuck here, and I don't know what's going to happen this summer. And Hagrid could still get arrested at any time. How did this turn into such a mess? Chapter 76, 8 May, Dumbledore's Notes. From the personal notes of Albus Dumbledore, file on Harry Potter, Tuesday, 8 May 2012, kept in shorthand. Very curious. The members of the Potter family I contacted in America report that they have had no contact at all with Harry Potter since her return to the wizarding world. I see little reason for them to lie about it. It is possible Holly is in contact with some other branch of the family, but she certainly is not with any of the Potters in New York. I also checked with Arabella, and she reports that Vernon and Petunia Dursley have been making their usual comings and goings all week, and Dudley is presumably still at his boarding school. They were clearly not involved. It is possible Holly is in contact with some other relatives who do not share her surname. It is also possible that she is using her relatives as a cover to contact someone else, though I can't imagine whom. From Hagrid's report of the Dursley household, I doubt that she had a large social circle. So to whom could she be writing? The other possibility is that Harley's episode wasn't related to the attack in New York, at least not in that way. Perhaps she was distraught at the thought of alien invasion or of war. That would show a degree of wisdom in principle, but it would be unhealthy if carried to extremes. And Harley, while empathetic, has not struck me as an excessively sensitive sort. If only I were not so busy, this would certainly merit further investigation. But as it is, I will trust Poppy's assessment that there is no danger, and I will ask her and Minerva to continue monitoring Harley. However, I think I will question Harley before she leaves for the summer to ensure there is nothing untoward happening that they missed. Chapter 77, 8 May Roman 2, Harley's Diary. From the Diary of Harry Potter, 8 May. It's still 3 days before I can hear back from Hedwig and 5 days before Iwantha to get back. I've been trying to ignore the news about the attack, honestly. It doesn't tell me anything useful, and I don't even want to think about it right now. All the Muggleborns want to talk about how Iron Man saved the day, and how Captain America is back from the dead somehow, and how we have a whole new team of superheroes and aliens are real and everything, and I just don't want to hear it. And they're not going to publish a list of everyone who died in the Daily Prophet. Probably not even the BBC. Not this early anyway, so there's no point. Maybe the New York Times would. Still, they probably don't know everything this early. I guess I still have Dad's address and his assistant's phone number. His computer assistant. Was that supposed to be his answering machine, or does he really have his computer acting as his secretary? I've never heard of a computer fancy enough to do that. Anyway, Anthony Stark's a common enough name, but with his address, I bet Hermione's parents could find him. They have that kind of stuff on the internet, don't they? All right, I'll ask Hermione to ask her parents to look him up tomorrow. That's the thing I can do. I've been trying to just focus on classes and revising to keep my mind off the whole thing in the meantime. I've even been following Hermione's revision schedule. and I've still got to deal with Snape on Friday. Even though it's 3 days away, something tells me he won't have much patience for me being out of sorts. Still nothing on the Philosopher's Stone. Fluffy's still there. Quirrell is as nervous as ever. Actually, it looks like Professor Burbage has been bugging him a lot. She teaches Muggle studies, and Percy says Quirrell taught that in his 3rd year. But I guess Quirrell hasn't told Snape anything. And it's a good thing, too. Dumbledore's been away since the battle happened, so if Snape knew how to get it, he would have taken the opportunity. I don't know how everything turned into such a bloody mess. I just don't know what to do. We've tried everything we could, but we're only first years, and if Hagrid doesn't believe us, how will anyone else? We learnt a bunch of stuff from him, but what good is it if there's nothing useful we can do with it? I wish I knew what to do. Chapter 78, 9 May I, Interlude, Harley. Wednesday looked to be another rough day for Harley, just like the previous 3. She still had no way of knowing if her dad was all right, no matter how much Hermione told her how good the odds were that he was. She was going to ask Hermione to write her parents about it, but that still wouldn't help right now. Then she had to worry about getting Norbert out of the castle. She still had no idea what she could do about Snape trying to stealing the Philosopher's Stone. She didn't even know how she was going to make it through Snape's class on Friday with the state she was in. She didn't know what would be worse. If she still didn't hear from Hedwig Friday morning, or if she did, meaning she would have to wait another 18 days for an answer if Hermione's parents didn't come through. Holly was so absorbed in her thoughts as she ate breakfast that she barely even noticed Hermione elbowing her. And she didn't look up until Ron shouted, "Oi, Harley!" She jerked out of her daze and looked up at Ron with wide, startled eyes. "What?" she gasped. Ron just pointed towards the ceiling. "Look," he said. Harley looked up and was stunned to see a snowy white owl with black stripes and a mail tube on her back winging her way toward her. "Hedwig," she said, perplexed. "Oh, Harley, of course it is," Hermione said. "But it can't," she said. "It's too early. She shouldn't be back before Friday." But there was no mistake. It was Hedwig, as evidenced by the fact that she swooped down and landed on the table right in front of her. But something was wrong. Her landing was rough, not the graceful alighting she usually did. She nearly flopped over, and she upended a bowl of cereal as she slid into place. It wasn't quite as bad as the Weasleys' ancient owl, Errol, but it was close, and even after she landed, she looked peaky. Her feathers were ruffled, she was swaying on her feet, and she even seemed to be breathing hard. "Hedwig, what's wrong?" Harley said worriedly. Hedwig made a rough chuffing sound and turned sideways and made a move that might have been the owl equivalent of shrugging her shoulders. Except in this instance, Harley could tell she was drawing attention to the mail tube on her back. "Oh, right," she said. With trembling hands, she reached out and struggled to undo the straps to remove the mail tube. She still couldn't understand how Hedwig was back so early. She couldn't have even reached New York with how fast it had been. Could she have somehow sensed that New York would be 2 dangerous days in the future and turned back? Even post-owls weren't supposed to Bethet magical. Was it still her own letter in the tube? She was just about to open the tube when Hedwig wobbled again on her feet. Then she toppled forward and splooted face first into Ron's scrambled eggs. "Hedwig!" Harley cried, jumping to her feet. Ron had also jumped to his feet in surprise, and there was a clatter as everyone nearby turned to stare at them. Harley quickly leaned over, trying to inspect Hedwig to see if she had really just keeled over for no reason. But no, she realized. Her owl was still conscious and eating Ron's scrambled eggs. "Hey, get your own," Ron scolded, but Hermione shot him a dirty look. "Ron, something's obviously gone wrong." "I've never seen an owl behave like that." "I have," Ron said. "Errol does that after a long flight to Bill or Charlie." "But Hedwig doesn't," Harley protested, "and she's been flying back and forth to America all year." "Maybe she just needs the extra protein," Dean Thomas joked half-heartedly. "That bird looks like she just ran a marathon." Suddenly, Hermione gasped, "Maybe shedded." Harley turned to her in surprise. Maybe she was hurrying to get back, she said. Quick, Harley, open the mail tube. And all at once, Harley remembered something that Hagrid had told her all those months ago, when she didn't know where in the world her father lived or if Hedwig could reach him. Their usual delivery time wasn't they could do it. They could fly faster if they needed to. He'd said Australia'd probably take 2 or 3 weeks each way, even for a rush job, but she can still get there first sure. A rush job. Post owls could fly faster. Hadn't she told Hedwig when she'd sent her first letter that she didn't have to rush it? But if she'd made the trip this time in 5 days, 4.5, half the length of her usual 9 days, Harley thought she could have come back after the battle. Hands still trembling, Harley unscrewed the cap from the mail tube. Inside was a piece of paper. It wasn't rolled up, but folded end over end and stuck in there so that she had a bit of trouble getting it out. That wasn't what she'd expected. It wasn't her own letter, but it wasn't the way her father usually wrote to her either. Her heart raced even faster when she saw that it was dirty, with a shoe print on the back. Her hands were shaking so badly that she could barely get the 2 ends of the paper apart to unfold it. The note was short and handwritten, not typed. Messy, like someone who wasn't accustomed to writing by hand. But she had barely registered the top line and the signature when relief flooded through her so fast she felt like she might faint. That was how all of Hogwarts got to see Harley Potter with tears streaming down her face and cereal spilt on her robes, jumping up and down and screaming, "Yes, yes, yes," at the top of her voice for no discernible reason. Chapter 79, 9 May Roman 2, Note from Anthony Stock. Note delivered to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Wednesday, 9 May 2012. Dear Harley, I'm still alive. I wanted you to know that up front. I'm not sure how much you'd hear about the battle in New York where you are, so I didn't want you to worry if you didn't hear what happened to me some other way. I'm not going to lie to you. It was bad. And I was in Erialibad pinch for a minute there, but I made it out in one piece. In fact, most all of us made it. I lost one, personally, a friend of mine. His name was Phil. Anyway, we're still on to meet on June 23, but the penthouse is trashed, so I'll probably take you to my house in Malibu for the summer. Love, Dad, P.S. As for not going back to your aunt and uncle while the paperwork clears, unfortunately I can't guarantee that, but Pepper has some ideas. We'll figure something out. Chapter 80, 9 May Roman 3, Letter to Ron Weasley, Evening. Letter delivered to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Wednesday, 9 May 2012, Evening. Dear Ron, how are you? Thanks for the letter. He'd be glad to take the Norwegian Ridgeback, but it won't be easy getting him here. I think the best thing will be to send him over with some friends of mine who are coming to visit me next week. Trouble is, they mustn't be seen carrying an illegal dragon. Could you get the Ridgeback up the tallest tower at midnight on Saturday? They can meet you there and take him away while it's still dark. Send me an answer as soon as possible. Love, Charlie. P.S. Everyone over here is buzzing about what happened in New York. Of course, beings from another world destroying stuff is bad enough, but here at the reserve, we're also wondering what those giant flying beasts were that attacked the city, and if they could be connected with dragons or affect the statute of secrecy somehow. But none of us were involved at all, and it won't affect the pickup. Chapter 81, 9 May Roman 4, Harley's Diary. From the diary of Harley Potter, he's okay. Dad's okay. He sent me a note this morning. I think I made quite the scene, honestly. I think even the teachers thought I was being weird. 9 May, an arrow is drawn from this line, pointing to the top of the page, above the previous lines. I was freaking out a bit earlier. I've only calmed down enough to write it down this evening. I was literally jumping up and down at breakfast when I got his note. Professors Flitwick and Sprout both asked if I was okay after their classes. Of course, as far as anyone knows, I've just been writing to distant cousins, and it would be kind of strange if I were that excited about them. Now that I think about it, my distant cousins from the Potters are supposed to be in New York. That's what Percy said anyway. I hadn't thought about if they were in trouble. I probably should have. It's just that I haven't been writing to them or anything. Of course, they also have magic, and Percy said Macusa takes care of its own. Plus, they probably don't live in a tower like Dad does. I don't know if people believed my story. Well, it really wasn't my story. I just didn't correct them when they said it, but I don't know if people believed it. I'm sure it would be a bigger deal if my cousins were Theonlirelatives I had, but I don't know if I'd Beth excited. If they were the ones I'd been writing all year, maybe I would do. But also, they have magic, so there wouldn't be so much reason to worry about them. Actually, I'm not sure what else people might be thinking. Maybe they just think I'm weird. That would be annoying, but I'll worry about that later. And I told Hermione I'd been right to worry. Dad said he was in Arielibird Pinch for a minute, and he said his penthouse was trashed. I think his building must have got hit. I know she was just trying to make me feel better. She kept telling me the numbers from the battle weren't that bad even if Hugh's in his penthouse. But Icnoe was right to worry. He must have got hit by something, and he even said he lost one of his friends. He also said since his penthouse is trashed, so he'll probably take me to his house in Malibu for the summer. I'm not sure where that is. He must really be doing well with his business if he has a second house. Uncle Vernon always talked about buying a vacation home in Majorca, but he never did it. And of course, Hedwig was amazing. I wasn't expecting her sooner than Friday, but there she was this morning. She must have known I'd be scared, or maybe Dad told her, and she got back as quick as she could. It must have been under 5 days, since it was after the battle. I'd forgotten that Hagrid said owls could fly faster for a rush job. I didn't get a chance to ask him about it today, and he's still busy with Norbert. She face-planted into Ron's breakfast when she got here, but she made it. Oh, and Ron heard back from Charlie just now. He's going to send some friends to pick up Norbert. They want us to bring him to the top of the astronomy tower on Saturday night. That can't be that hard, right? I'll have to let Hedwig rest before I send her back to New York. Actually, if Dad's moving out to Malibu, it might take her longer. I know Malibu is some tropical place, but I'm not sure if it's in Florida or California. There might not be enough days left in the school year for a round trip if Hedwig has to fly all the way to California. There probably are, but without knowing for sure how far Malibu is, I can't be certain. Or he might still be in New York. I just don't know either way. I think he must have been rushing to get his note sent. And I don't want to ask Hedwig to make another rush delivery if it might be an even longer distance. Of course, I suppose Dad only needs one more thing, and that's my birth certificate. I can ask if he can keep Hedwig until summer after that if he needs to. He's kept her a few days before writing back before, so I don't think it would be a problem. It must have been terrifying being in New York when there were space aliens attacking the city. That's the kind of thing you only expect to happen in movies. But it sounds like that new superhero team, the Avengers, stopped them before it could get too bad. Definitely before they could get out of New York. I wonder what Dad saw from where he was. Chapter 82, Flashback to May, Logs from Stark Tower. Audio-video logs from Stark Tower, Penthouse, Wednesday, May 2, 2012. Mr. Stark and Ms. Potts are present, discussing the upcoming press campaign for Stark Tower's clean energy exhibition. Hedwig is also present, sitting on a perch at the far side of the room. Agent Philip Coulson of S.H.I.E.L.D. enters the room from the elevator, despite Mr. Stark's attempts to brush him off. Mr. Stark, security breach, to Ms. Potts. That's on you. Agent Coulson, Mr. Stark. Mr. Stark and Ms. Potts approach Agent Coulson. Ms. Potts, Phil, come in. Mr. Stark, Phil. Agent Coulson, I can't stay. Mr. Stark. His first name is Agent. Ms. Potts, come on in, we're celebrating. Mr. Stark, which is why he can't stay. Agent Coulson, we need you to look this over, as soon as possible. Agent Coulson holds out a file to Mr. Stark. Mr. Stark, I don't like being handed things. Ms. Potts, that's all right, 'cause I love to be handed things. So let's trade. Ms. Potts passes her glass of champagne to Agent Coulson and takes the file from him. She then takes Mr. Stark's glass of champagne while passing the file to him. Parts mischievously. Thank you, Mr. Stark. Annoyed. Official consulting hours are between 8 and 5 every other Thursday. Agent Coulson, this isn't a consultation. Ms. Potts, is this about the Avengers, which Roman 2 know nothing about? Mr. Stark, the Avengers initiative was scrapped, I thought. And I didn't even qualify. Ms. Potts, I didn't know that either. Mr. Stark, yeah, apparently I'm volatile, self-obsessed, don't play well with others. Ms. Potts, well, that's a little harsh. I think you've matured quite well since, well, Agent Coulson. This isn't about personality profiles anymore. Mr. Stark, whatever. Ms. Potts, you got a sec. Ms. Potts, to Agent Coulson, whispering, inaudible. Ms. Potts approaches Mr. Stark as he places the files into the Stark Tower database. Agent Coulson looks around the room and spots Hedwig. Mr. Stark, you know, I thought we were having a moment. MS. Potts, I was having 12% of a moment. Pause. This seems serious. Phil's pretty shaken. Mr. Stark, how would you know this? Why is he Phil? Agent Coulson, interrupting. When did you get an owl? Mr. Stark and MS. Parts look at each other nervously, then turn to face Agent Coulson and begin speaking over each other. Mr. Stark. It's Ms. Parts. A new project, Mr. Stark. Conservation initiative, Ms. Parts. There was just a Mr. Stark. Delivered to the wrong address, MS. Parts, bit of a communications mix-up. Agent Coulson stares at Mr. Stark and Ms. Parts with a skeptical expression. Hedwig. Vocalization transcribed as woof. Analysis indicates a skeptical attitude. Agent Coulson, did it just bark? Mr. Stark, yeah, snowy owls. They do that. Ms. Parts quickly turns herself and Mr. Stark back to the holoscreen. Ms. Parts, but you wanted an analysis of this. What is all of this? Mr. Stark, this is soothes. The files displayed depict several persons of interest to S.H.I.E.L.D. in various capacities. Cross-referencing confirms each of them also has connections to the Avengers initiative. Archival footage is shown of Captain America from World War II, alongside footage of him being unfrozen from the Arctic ice. The Hulk is shown attacking us army personnel at Culver University. Thor Odinson is shown fighting the destroyer in Puente Antiguo, New Mexico. A fourth figure was not previously listed in the database, but is identified as Loki of Asgard, the brother of Thor. He is shown stealing an artifact identified as the Tesseract from a S.H.I.E.L.D. facility. The timestamp on this footage is 1 day previous. Ms. Potts, I'm going to take the jet to D.C. tonight. Mr. Stark, tomorrow. Ms. Potts, you have homework. You have a lot of homework. Mr. Stark, well, what if I didn't? Ms. Potts, if you didn't. Mr. Stark, yeah. Ms. Potts, you still have a letter to answer. Transcriber's note. Miss Potter's most recent letter was delivered earlier that day. However, given his busy schedule related to the arc reactor switchover, Mr. Stark had not yet opened it. Mr. Stark, it can wait till after the homework. Miss Potts, well, then, after you've finished. Ms. Potts whispers in Mr. Stark's ear, too softly for the room microphones to pick up. Sensors note an increase in Mr. Stark's heart rate. Mr. Stark, square deal, fly safe. Ms. Potts kisses Mr. Stark and walks away. Ms. Potts, to Mr. Stark. Whispering inaudible, to Agent Coulson. So any chance you're driving by LaGuardia? Agent Coulson, yeah, I can drop you. Ms. Potts, fantastic, from the elevator. I want to hear all about that cellist. Is that still a thing? Agent Coulson, she moved back to Portland. Ms. Potts, what? Or boo MS. Potts and Agent Coulson depart in the elevator. Mr. Stark manipulates the hologram of the Tesseract, looking uneasy. After studying it for 35 seconds, he sets it down and looks back at the other video clips and their associated descriptions. Mr. Stark, Jarvis, am I seeing this right? S.H.I.E.L.D. thinks these Thor and Loki characters are Thikchualnos guards from 1,000 years ago. Jarvis, yes, sir. While that conclusion is based primarily on testimony from Thor himself, the existence of an alien world named Asgard, populated by enhanced individuals, appears well supported. Thor also wielded enhanced abilities and a hammer consistent with mythological depictions of Mjolnir. Interestingly, he also claimed that magic and science were, quote, one and the same on his world. Mr. Stark. Ha! Pause. Good to know I'm on the right track then. Do we have anything in Project Glinda about the Norse gods? Jarvis. Negative. Miss Potter has made no mention of them, and the current parameters of the project have not led to their inclusion. Shall I start a new query? Mr. Stark. Yeah, see if you can find any connection. Or if you can filter out some leads for that matter. Jarvis. Query started, sir. However, I advise you that I would put low confidence in it. Mr. Stark. Oh, why's that? Jarvis. The primary sources for Norse mythology are the Icelandic Eddas, which were alternately written or compiled over 200 years after Iceland was Christianized, and based on Thor's testimony, they appear to contain fundamental factual errors. Mr. Stark, well, it's gotta be better than nothing. Jarvis. I would not be so sure about that, sir. The Poetic Edda claims that Loki was blood brother to Odin, not Thor. Mr. Stark. Surprised. Oh, that could be a problem. Jarvis. The Eddas further claim that Lady Sif is married to Thor, and it is a plot point that she is blonde. Thor also mentioned a conflict with a Laufey, king of the frost giants. However, the prose Edda lists Laufey as Anasinja, likely an Asgardian, and as Loki's mother. Mr. Stark, okay, I get the picture. We're out of luck on the family therapy, angle keep the query, but focus on anything it can narrow down in the historical clues about wizards. For now, show me everything we've got on the Tesseract. Chapter 83, Flashback, 3 May, Security footage from Banner's lab. Surveillance footage from SHIELD Helicarrier number 64, laboratory assigned to Dr. Bruce Banner, alias the Hulk, Thursday, May 3, 2012. Banner and Tony Stark, alias Iron Man, present. Banner scans Loki's scepter with a radiation detector while Stark manipulates a holoscreen. Banner, the gamma readings are definitely consistent with Selvig's reports on the Tesseract, but it's gonna take weeks to process. Stark, if we bypass their mainframe and direct route to the Homer cluster, we can clock this around 600 teraflops. Transcriber's note. Homer is Stark's previous generation artificial intelligence system, which was the precursor to his current system, Jarvis. It now operates the Stark Industries servers and other key systems. As such, it was an outside computing resource that Stark connected Toiligally as part of his unauthorized counter-espionage efforts. Banner, laughing. All I packed was a toothbrush. Stark approaches Banner. Stark, you know, you should come by Stark Tower sometime. Top 10 floors, all RD. You'd love it, it's Candyland. Banner, thanks, but the last time I was in New York I kind of broke. Harlem, Stark. Well, I promise a stress-free environment, no tension, no surprises. Pause, small chance of surprises. Do you like birds? Banner looks up at Stark in surprise. At the same time, Steve Rogers, alias Captain America, enters the laboratory and approaches the work table. Neither Banner nor Stark appears to notice. Banner, birds, Stark. It's a new conservation initiative I'm trying out. There've been a few complications, but you should be fine if you stay out of biting range. Rogers, concerned. Someone got bitten. Stark, not recently. To Banner. What is your secret, anyway? Mellow jazz, bongo drums, huge bag of weed. Banner, no. The other guy isn't a fan of mind-altering substances. Animals can help. Well, dogs and cats can help at least. A well-socialized animal can be more chill than a human a lot of the time. Stark. Yeah, chill isn't exactly the word I'd use for the one I've got now. Banner, is it a parrot? Parrots are more trouble than they're worth. Stark shakes his head. Stark. Owl, Banner. Owl, Stark. Yeah, big yellow eyes that follow you around the room and razor-sharp talons. Stark makes a clawing motion with his hand close to Banner's face while also making an indeterminate screeching noise. Rogers, warning tone. Stark. But like I said, stay out of biting range and you should be fine. Stark slaps Banner on the shoulder harder than is strictly necessary, then stares closely at his eyes. Banner does not react. Rogers tenses and takes a step forward. Rogers, is everything a joke to you? Stark. Who said anything about a joke? It's called calibration, to Banner. No offense, Doc, just want to get a good baseline here. But hey, you really seem to have a lid on it. You should take the chance to lighten up for a while. Rogers, Andy, I should focus on the problem, Mr. Stark. Stark picks up a package of blueberries from the laboratory rations case. Stark, seriously, you think I'm not? Why did Fury call us, and why now? Why not before? What isn't he telling us? Pause. I can't do the equation unless I have all the variables. Rogers, you think Fury's hiding something? Stark, he's a spy. Captain, he's Thespy. His secrets have secrets. Stark eats a handful of blueberries, then motions toward Banner. Stark, it's bugging him too, isn't it? Banner, up, pause. Evasive. I just want to finish my work here, and Rogers, Doctor. Banner, pause. A warm light for all mankind. Loki's jab at Fury about the cube. Rogers, I heard it. Stark offers the blueberries to Banner. Banner takes a handful. Banner, to Stark. Well, I think that was meant for you. Even if Barton didn't tell Loki about the tower, it was still all over the news. Rogers, the Stark Tower. That big ugly Stark looks sharply at Rogers. Rogers, building in New York. Banner, to Rogers. It's powered by an arc reactor, self-sustaining energy source. That building will run itself for what, a year? Stark, that's just the prototype. I'm kind of the only name in clean energy right now. That's what he's getting at. Banner, so why didn't S.H.I.E.L.D. bring him in on the Tesseract project? I mean, what are they doing in the energy business in the first place? Stark, I should probably look into that once my decryption programmer finishes breaking into all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secure files. Rogers, angrily, sorry, did you say? Stark, Jarvis has been running it since I hit the bridge. In a few hours, I'll know every dirty secret S.H.I.E.L.D. has ever tried to hide. Blueberry. Stark offers the blueberries to Rogers. Rogers ignores them. Rogers, yet you're confused about why they didn't want you around. Stark, an intelligence organization, Thatfierce intelligence. Historically, not awesome. Rogers, I think Loki's trying to wind us up. This is a man who means to start a war, and if we don't stay focused, he'll succeed. We have orders, we should follow them. Stark, following's not really my style. Rogers, and you're all about style, aren't you? Stark, of the people in this room, which one is, are wearing a spangly outfit and B, not of use. Banner, Steve, tell me none of this smells a little funky to you. Rogers, pause, just find the cube. Rogers leaves the laboratory. Banner and Stark return to working at separate holoscreens. Stark, that's the guy my dad never shut up about, wondering if they shouldn't have kept him on ice. Banner, the guy's not wrong about Loki, he does have the jump on us. Stark, what he's got is an Acme dynamite kit. It's gonna blow up in his face, and I'm gonna be there when it does. Banner, and I'll read all about it. Stark, aha, or you'll be suiting up with the rest of us. Banner, ah, see, I don't get a suit of armor. I'm exposed like a nerve. It's a nightmare. Stark, pause. You know, I've got a cluster of shrapnel trying every second to crawl its way into my heart. Stark taps the miniature arc reactor in his chest and approaches Banner to face him through his holoscreen. Stark, this stops it. This little circle of light. It's part of me now, not just armor. It's a terrible privilege. Banner, but you can control it. Stark, because I learned how. And there's still a couple issues I'm working on. Banner, it's different. Stark interrupts Banner's program and clears the holoscreen to face him unobstructed. Stark, hey, look, a couple years ago, I thought things were out of my control too. The arc reactor, it kept me alive. But then it started killing me. Palladium poisoning, don't recommend it. I was running out of time. I closed to giving up. You may have heard about my birthday party, but then I found another way. Made Ainwalk reactor powered by Badassium. Banner, laughing Badassium. Stark, I discovered it. I get to name it. Banner, I'm pretty sure there's a committee for that. Banner turns away from the holoscreen and leans over a workbench. His body language is visibly tense. Banner, but that's not the point. You found your other way. Me, it'd give up. It didn't work. Stark jolts visibly and stares at Banner in surprise. Banner does not look up. Banner, I got low. I didn't see an end, so I put a bullet in my mouth, and the other guy spit it out. So I moved on. I focused on helping other people. I was good until Fury dragged me back into this mess. Banner looks up and turns to face Stark again. Banner, you got any witty remarks for that? Stark, pause. Sorry, I didn't have time to read the psychology textbook too, but if it were me, I think I'd try to take a different perspective. Banner, a different perspective. Like what? Stark, like you've got a very big, very scary guy watching out for you. Banner, so you're saying that the Hulk, the other guy, saved my life, whether I wanted it or not? Sure, great. Saved it for what? Stark turns to face the window into the lower equipment room of the helicarrier. His tone becomes uncharacteristically wistful. Stark, who knows? Pause. Maybe it's something you never would have imagined. Life's funny like that. Banner looks at Stark with a confused expression behind his back. Banner, where's this coming from? Are you getting married or something? Stark turns to face Banner. Stark, you know you're the second person who's asked me that. No, Pepper and I are taking things at our own pace. And beyond that, this isn't really the time or place. Stark taps his finger to his ear twice. Believed to be the walls have ears gesture. Stark, I'm just saying you never know when life will throw something your way that changes your perspective, and not just in a tall, green, and angry sort of way. Banner, yeah, well, I haven't had much luck with that kind of thing lately. Stark, then maybe it's time you made your own luck. Banner, pause. You may not enjoy that. Stark, and you just might, more than you think. Chapter 84, Flashback for May. Security footage from Banner's lab. Security footage from SHIELD Helicarrier number 64, laboratory assigned to Dr. Banner, Friday, May 4, 2012. Banner, Stark, and SHIELD Director Nick Fury present. Fury, angrily. What are you doing, Mr. Stark? Stark, kind of been wondering the same thing about you. Fury, you're supposed to be locating the Tesseract. Banner, we are. The model's locked and we're sweeping for the signature now. When we get a hit, we'll have the location within half a mile. Stark, yeah, and you'll get your cube back, no muss, no fuss. An encrypted file titled Phase 2 appears on Stark's holoscreen. Stark, what is Phase 2? Rogers enters the laboratory while carrying a Hydra weapon taken from secure storage. He slams the weapon on the table. Rogers, Phase 2 is SHIELD uses the cube to make weapons. To Stark. Sorry, the computer was moving a little slow for me. Fury, Rogers, we gathered everything related to the Tesseract. This does not mean that we're making Stark. Interrupting. I'm sorry, Nick. Stark turns around his holoscreen, which now displays blueprints for a Phase 2 weapon prototype. Stark, what were you lying? Rogers, I was wrong, Director. The world hasn't changed a bit. Thor Odinson and Natasha Romanoff, alias Black Widow, enter the laboratory. Banner to Romanoff. Did you know about this? Romanoff, you want to think about removing yourself from this environment, Doctor. Banner, I was in Calcutta. I was pretty well removed. Romanoff, Loki's manipulating you. Banner, and you've been doing what exactly? Romanoff, you didn't come here because I bat my eyelashes at you. Banner, yes, and I'm not leaving because suddenly you get a little twitchy. I'd like to know why SHIELD is using the Tesseract to build weapons of mass destruction. Fury, because of him. Fury points at Thor. Thor, surprised. Me. Fury, last year, Earth had a visitor from another planet who had a grudge match That'll Velida small town. We learned that not only are we not alone, but we are hopelessly, hilariously outgunned. Thor, my people want nothing but peace with your planet. Fury, but you're not the only people out there, are you? And you're not the only threat. The world's filling up with people who can't be matched, they can't be controlled. Rogers, like you controlled the cube. Thor, your work with the Tesseract is what drew Loki to it and his allies. It is the signal to all the realms that the Earth is ready for a higher form of war. Rogers, a higher form. All of the subjects begin increasingly talking over one another. Several sentences cannot be recovered, given the position of the microphone. At the same time, the jewel in Loki's scepter gradually glows brighter. Transcriber's note. This is the only point in the reconstructed timeline at which the influence of the scepter on the Avengers can be clearly identified. but it is believed that it was influencing them for much longer, possibly even from the moment they boarded the helicarrier. Fury, you forced our hand. We had to come up with something. Stark, a nuclear deterrent, cause that always calms everything right down. Fury, remind me again how you made your fortune, Stark. Rogers, I'm sure if he still made weapons, Stark would be neck deep. Stark, wait, hold on, how is this now about me? Rogers, I'm sorry, isn't everything. Thor, believed to be general commentary. I thought humans were more evolved than this. Fury, excuse me, did we come toy a planet and blow stuff up? Thor, you treat your champions with such mistrust. Rogers, you don't understand, unintelligible, believed directed to Stark. Fury, to Thor, angrily. They're not my champions, Romanoff, believed to be general commentary. Are you boys really that naive? Shield monitors potential threats. Stark, unintelligible, believed directed to Rogers. What is it about me that bothers you so much? I'm curious, unintelligible. Banner, to Romanoff. Captain America is on the threat watch. Romanoff, to Banner. We all are. Fury, to Banner. That's not your concern, Doctor. Stark, to Rogers. You're on that list. Are you above or below angry bees? Thor, believed directed to Fury. You should have let me take unintelligible back to Asgard. Rogers, Stark, unintelligible, one more wisecrack. Stark, to Rogers. Verbal threat. I feel threatened. Rogers, unintelligible, believed directed to Stark. Show some respect. Unintelligible. Stark, respect what? Unintelligible, believed directed to Rogers. For 11 seconds, no coherent statements can be recovered from the audio. During this period, Banner backs up to his work table. At several points in the ensuing conversation, he moves as if to pick up the scepter from the table. He does not appear to be aware of this. Fury, shouting over the group. Loki is playing us. We need to get the situation back under our own control. Thor, you speak of control, yet you court chaos. Banner, it's his MO, isn't it? I mean, what are we, a team? No, we're a chemical mixture that makes chaos. We're a time bomb. Fury, to Banner. You need to step away. Stark, to Fury. Why shouldn't the guy speak his mind? Stark places his hand on Rogers' shoulder. Rogers swats it away. Rogers, it's not the speaking that's the problem. Back off. Stark, oh, I'm starting to want you to make me. Rogers turns and approaches Stark closely face to face. Rogers, big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you? Stark, genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. Rogers, hostile tone. I know guys with none of that worth 10 of you. I've seen the footage. The only thing you really fight for is yourself. You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play, to lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you. Stark, I think I would just cut the wire. Rogers, pause. Always a way out, you know. You may not be a threat, but you better stop pretending to be a hero. Stark, a hero, like you. Pause. Hostile tone. You know, I've seen your records, Rogers. Framaforeth experiment. Diving on a grenade your first day of basic training in home soil. No enemies, open ground for 100 yards around, plenty of time to run to a safe distance. Do you call that a sacrifice play? Because I call it a martyrdom complex. Rogers's expression briefly appears uncertain, but he quickly rallies. Rogers, you would, wouldn't you? Because that's the only lens you can see it through. If someone actually takes the fall, they must be doing it wrong. You can't understand the kind of person who would make that play because they know what they're fighting for. Stark, I know what I'm fighting for perfectly well, Rogers. Rogers, what? Your new building? Stark, angrily, my daughter. The laboratory goes silent. Everyone stares in shock at Stark except Thor, who looks around, appearing more surprised by the others' reactions. The jewel in the scepter momentarily blinks out, then immediately begins glowing again at a lower level. Banner steps away from the work table, still appearing not to notice his actions. Romanoff, damn who had May of 2012 in the betting pool, Fury, to Stark, angrily. You're what? Stark, my daughter, Fury, you may have heard of the concept. Banner, to Stark. Oh my God, you were serious. Fury approaches Stark. Fury, why didn't I know about this? Stark, because I didn't want you to. Fury, You don't get out of this that easy, Stark. We ran a background check on you. We monitored you, tracked every claim you'd ever gotten before we ever approached you for the Avengers. Stark, well, maybe your intel's out of date. It's a pretty new development. By the way, Romanoff, that betting pool, I found out in January. Fury, we would still know about it. We would have heard about the lawsuit. Stark, that might, except there was no lawsuit. Banner, wait, you got a paternity claim and it wasn't a lawsuit. Stark, shocking, I know. No paper trail for S.H.I.E.L.D. to follow. Kinda lucked out on that one, actually. Banner, Rogers, and Romanoff continue to stare at Stark in surprise. Fury, all right, Stark, so you have a daughter. Is she going to be a problem? Stark suddenly lunges forward, coming nose to nose with Fury. Rogers and Romanoff rush forward to stop Stark, but they pause when he stops short of making contact. Stark, angrily. What do you mean, is she a problem, Fury? Fury, unfazed. It means that we don't need any more stages. Where is she? Stark takes half a step backwards and visibly relaxes, turning partly away from Fury. Stark, Scotland. A middle-of-nowhere boarding school. No place Loki'd be interested in, and if Yao didn't know, he definitely wouldn't. Romanoff, you haven't logged any travel to Scotland since January. Stark, not the boarding school. We've been exchanging letters. Rogers, you, writing letters. On paper. Stark, annoyed. Yeah, laugh it up, Rogers. On paper, so yes, I know what and who I'm fighting for. And I promise you, if she ever needs me to stand between her and the hosts of Mordor, I'll be there. But until that day, excuse me if I stop long enough to look for a pair of scissors. Stark and Rogers stare each other down for 3 seconds. Then, a holoscreen beeps. Banner immediately approaches it. Stark's expression brightens. Stark, got it. Thor, you've located the Tesseract. Stark, I can get there faster. Fury, I want all of you, Thor. The Tesseract belongs on Asgard. No human is a match for it. Stark attempts to leave the laboratory. He is stopped by Rogers. Rogers, you're not going alone. Stark, you got a better idea. Rogers, we can start by figuring out what surprises they might have waiting for us. There's no way Loki made it that easy. And Barton knows S.H.I.E.L.D.'s operations banner, examines the holoscreen and leans closer to it. Transcriber's note. Banner reported after the fact that the screen was displaying the detected location of the Tesseract in New York City. Rogers, now Agent Romanoff, if Barton Banner, interrupting. Oh my God, end of recording. Transcriber's note. The reconstructed timeline confirms that this was the moment when Loki's thralls, including Agent Barton, attacked the helicarrier, causing an explosion that severely damaged the laboratory and destroyed the cameras. Chapter 85. Flashback, 4 May Roman 2. Security footage from Hulk containment. Security footage from S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier number 64, Hulk containment room, Friday, May 4, 2012. Rogers and Stark present. Stark stares at the empty space where the Hulk containment chamber had been. Rogers approaches him, but he does not look up. Rogers, so, your daughter. Stark, pause. Her name's Holly. She's 11. Rogers, how'd you find her? Stark, she found me, still not completely sure how. There was some inheritance thing that her bank was tracking, but somehow I didn't hear about it. Rogers, what about her mother? Stark, dead, years ago. Ah, firebombing. She lives with her aunt and uncle. Rogers, I'm sorry. Stark shakes his head. Stark, she wasn't anyone personal to me. Just one more pretty face who was interested when I was pretending I wasn't drowning my sorrows. Rogers, but you're taking responsibility for Holly. Stark turns to face Rogers. Stark, of course I am. I'm Northwood, and even he tried. He did more than Rogers. Pause. Is it her relatives? Stark, share her home life isn't great. Rogers, how bad? Stark. Pause. I've been afraid to ask. I've let it slide since she's off at boarding school. She says she loves it there, but I need to get in there before she has to go back. Rogers. Well, if you need a hand with that, Stark. A snort. Thanks, but I think I can handle it well. Pepper and I can handle it. I already bought the company her uncle works for. Rogers visibly holds back a laugh. Rogers, of course you did so. What's she like? Another Stark genius. Stark, no, not exactly. She seems clever enough, but her skills are in a different area. She's an athlete, star player in the league, even broke the school record. Rogers, pause. I wouldn't have expected that. Stark, yeah, neither did I. But you've got to let her be her own person, right? Pause. That's what Pepper says anyway. Rogers, that's good advice. Pause. You really haven't visited, though. Stark shakes his head with a frustrated expression. Stark, I haven't evented to her. Her school doesn't allow phones or computers. Which sounds insane. It took her weeks to convince me it wasn't a cult. The only reason I didn't just fly out there is, well, it's kind of a good thing in some ways. Security, privacy, and it worked. Even Fury didn't find out about her. Rogers, which is why she has you sending letters. Stark, yeah. She wrote plenty all about her school, her friends, her life. We have more in common than you might think, but no phone calls. Pause. And meeting her when her summer break starts next month. Rogers, I'm sure she'll love that. Stark, I hope so. If all goes well. Stark turns around and stares at the hole where Agent Coulson blasted Loki through the wall with an experimental weapon. Rogers, was he married? Stark, no. There was you a cellist, I think. Rogers, I'm sorry. He seemed like a good man. Stark, he was an idiot. Rogers, why? For believing. Stark, for taking on Loki alone. Rogers, he was doing his job. Stark, he was out of his league. He should have waited. He should have. Rogers found a pair of scissors. Stark hesitates, then nods slightly. Rogers, you know what Bucky said to me that night, right before I met Dr. Erskine? He said, sometimes I think you like getting punched. Pause. For the record, I didn't like getting punched. But I figure if Somion's gonna get punched, I've got no right to do any less than they do. That's why I kept trying to get the army to take me. Stark. Pause. Have you considered a therapist? Rogers. A snort. Have you? Stark. It's starting to look more tempting. Rogers briefly looks tense, but he deliberately takes a deep breath and relaxes. Rogers, you're not the first person who suggested that. It just wasn't the kind of thing we did back then. Pause. And maybe I had issues. Bucky sure thought so. But sometimes, when everything's fallen apart and there aren't any good options left, Rogers looks at the hole in the wall. Rogers, no one else is coming and you're the only one who can make that choice. Stark, right. And he still only managed to slow Loki down. Rogers, is this the first time you've lost a soldier? Stark, angrily. We are not soldiers. I'm not marching to Fury's fife. Rogers, neither am I. He's got the same blood on his hands that Loki does, but right now we gotta put that behind us and get this done. Stark looks down at the spot when Agent Coulson fell. A dent and a bloodstain are visible on the wall. Rogers, now Loki needs a power source. If we can put together a list. Stark turns back to Rogers. Stark, he made it personal. Rogers, that's not the point. Stark, that is the point. That's Loki's point. He hit us all right where we live. Why, Rogers, to tear us apart. Stark, yeah, divide and conquer is great, but he knows he has to take us out to win, right? That's what he wants. He wants to beat us. He wants to be seen doing Ith wants an audience. Rogers, right. I caught his act in Stuttgart. Stark, yeah, that's just previews. This is his opening night. And Loki, he's a full-tilt diva. He wants flowers, he wants parades, he wants a monument built to the skies with his name plastered. Pause, son of a bitch. Transcriber's note. The reconstructed timeline indicates that beginning from this point, the Avengers assembled in preparation to intercept Loki at Stark Tower in New York City. Chapter 86. Flashback, 4 May Roman 3. Security footage from the corridors. Security footage from SHIELD helicarrier number 64, corridor outside the quarters assigned to Agent Romanoff, Friday, May 4, 2012. Rogers present. Rogers approaches the door to Romanoff's quarters and opens it. In the subsequent conversation, Agents Clint Barton, alias Hawkeye, and Romanoff are confirmed to be inside. Transcriber's note. The reconstructed timeline confirms that Barton was freed from Loki's control by this point. Rogers, time to go. Romanoff, inside. Go where? Rogers, I'll tell you on the way. Can you fly one of those jets? Barton, inside. I can. Rogers, pause. Got a suit. Inaudible, believed to be Barton. Rogers, then suit up. Rogers quickly walks away from Romanoff's quarters. Romanoff and Barton exit the room and follow 5 seconds later. All three walk at a brisk pace in the direction of the armory. Transcribers note, the subsequent conversation is reconstructed from multiple security cameras along their path. Romanoff, Clint, were you in on the betting pool on stock? Barton, which one? Romanoff, first confirmed Lovechild. Barton stumbles and momentarily steadies himself against the wall, but he keeps pace with Romanoff. Barton, damn, somebody's gonna cash in. When was it? Romanoff, January this year. I don't suppose you had it. Barton, no, I had June of last year. I figured some kid whose mother he paid off would show up after they turned 18. Then I moved it to June this year for the new school year. You, Romanoff, completely whiffed. I said Stark's first child would be with Potts. Barton, wow, not often you miss something like that boy or girl. Romanoff, girl. Barton, did he say how old? Romanoff, no, but he mentioned boarding school. Barton, so what, late 90s? I'm surprised we didn't catch it. Romanoff, ma'am, you should have seen Fury. He was more surprised by that than he was by the space aliens. Chapter 87, Flashback 4 May Roman 4, Logs from Stark Tower. Audio-video logs from Stark Tower, Penthouse, Friday, May 4, 2012. Mr. Stark enters the penthouse from the Iron Man landing pad. A man wearing gold armor with oversized horns, identified as Loki of Asgard, is standing on the balcony. Hedwig is also visible, sitting on her perch at the far side of the room. Loki enters the penthouse immediately after Mr. Stark through the opposite door. Mr. Stark casually walks behind the bar. Loki, please tell me you're going to appeal to my humanity. Mr. Stark, actually, I'm planning to threaten you. Loki, you should have left your armor on for that. Mr. Stark, yeah, it's seen a bit of mileage and you've got the glow stick of destiny. Would you like a drink? Loki, stalling me won't change anything. Mr. Stark, no, 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 threatening. No drink, you sure? I'm having one. Loki turns and approaches the windows, looking out at the city. Loki, the Chitauri are coming, nothing will change that. Loki faces Mr. Stark again. Mr. Stark begins pouring a drink. Loki, what have I to fear? Mr. Stark, the Avengers. It's what we call ourselves, sort of like a team. Earth's mightiest heroes type of thing. Loki, yes, I've met them. Mr. Stark, yeah, it takes us a while to get any traction, I'll give you that one. But let's do a head count here. Loki turns away again in a dismissive fashion. While he isn't looking, Mr. Stark slips the homing bracelets for the Mark Roman 7 Iron Man armor onto his wrists. Deployment sequence for the Mark Roman 7 started. Mr. Stark, your brother, the demigod, a super soldier, living legend who kind of lives up to the legend. A man with breathtaking management issues, a couple of master assassins. And you, big fella, you've managed to piss off every single one of them. Loki, that was the plan, Mr. Stark comes out from behind the bar with his drink and approaches him. At same time, Loki glances toward the back of the room and spots Hedwig. He stares at her in confusion. Loki, Midgard still uses messenger owls. Mr. Stark is visibly surprised, but appears to attempt to hide it. Mr. Stark, what do you know about messenger owls? Loki turns back toward Mr. Stark. Loki, nothing that will help you. Mr. Stark, no, see, that's what the rest of the team's for. They've got that part covered. This is just a new conservation initiative I'm working on. Do you have them on Asgard, or is it just a local thing? Loki, now you are stalling. Mr. Stark, no, really, now you've got me curious. How much does the animal life of our worlds have in common? Are messenger owls connected to the talking ravens? The eagle who trades insults with a dragon and a squirrel? Loki, confused. The what? Mr. Stark, I don't know, that's what our old stories say. I only had time to read the Cliff's Notes. Of course, they also say you were Themither off an 8-legged horse, so Loki brandishes his scepter, waving it close enough that he nearly slashes Mr. Stark with its point. Mr. Stark leans back to avoid it. Loki, angrily. I tire of your prattle, mortal. Mr. Stark, really? 'Cause I can do this all day. Mr. Stark takes a drink. Loki raises his scepter above his head and swings it down at Mr. Stark's head. Hedwig, loud vocalization transcribed as Esri. Hedwig flies across the room and kicks the scepter and Loki's hand with her talons, causing his swing to go wide. Loki swings the scepter at Hedwig and then fires an energy blast into the ceiling, but Hedwig dodges both and swoops around to land on the bar behind Mr. Stark. Mr. Stark half turns to look at her. Hedwig, vocalization transcribed as woof. Analysis suggests a glaring posture directed at Loki. Mr. Stark, nice one. You want to join the team. Loki, or pest of a bird. Loki points the scepter at Hedwig again. Mr. Stark, hello, still threatening here. Although if you're going after the wildlife now, maybe we overestimated you. Loki turns back to Mr. Stark. Loki, you won't be so confident when my army arrives. Mr. Stark, yeah, you're still not getting it. There's no throne. There is no version of this where you come out on top. Maybe you're Armadoscum, and maybe it's too much for us, but it's all on you. 'Cause if we can't protect the Earth, you can be damned well sure we'll avenge it. Mr. Stark takes another drink. Loki, how will your friends have time for me when they're so busy fighting you? Loki approaches Mr. Stark and places the tip of his scepter over his heart. It clinks against his arc reactor. Audio analysis indicates a loss of power in the scepter on contact. Loki attempts it again with the same result. Transcriber's note. Analysis also suggests that Mr. Stark was surprised and unprepared for this mode of attack. I have recommended to Mr. Stark that he be more cautious in the future. Loki, this usually works. Mr. Stark, well, performance issues, it's not uncommon. But seriously, how do you know about Messenog? Loki grabs Mr. Stark by the throat and throws him across the floor. Mr. Stark, Jarvis, any time now. Mr. Stark stands up. Loki grabs Mr. Stark by the throat again. Loki, you will all fall before me. Mr. Stark, deploy. Hedwig. Loud vocalization transcribed as Esri. Hedwig flies at Loki's head, raking his face with her talons. Loki drops Mr. Stark and swipes at her with a haymaker, but she dodges again. Loki hesitates, pointing the scepter at her, but he abruptly turns and fires an energy blast at Mr. Stark. Mr. Stark sees it coming and rolls over so that he is not directly hit. However, the concussion throws him through the penthouse window and off the side of the tower. Transcriber's note. The penthouse windows should have been sufficiently shatter-resistant to prevent a human from being thrown through them. A complaint has been filed against the contractor. Immediately afterward, the Mark Roman 7 deploys, accelerating through the penthouse and out the window. It narrowly misses Loki, passing close enough to knock him over in its wake. Transcriber's note. The Mark Roman 7 successfully deployed, rescuing Mr. Stark before he reached the ground. Mr. Stark's subsequent activities are recorded in the suit logs. Loki stands up and faces Hedwig. He raises the scepter toward her again. Loki. Now, as for you, Mr. Stark appears again, hovering in the penthouse's front window. Loki quickly turns to face him. Mr. Stark, and there's one other person you pissed off. His name's Phil. Loki raises the scepter, and it glows brighter in preparation to fire an energy blast at Mr. Stark. Mr. Stark is able to hit Loki with a repulsor blast faster, knocking him off his feet. Hedwig, loud vocalization transcribed as scrar. Analysis suggests a fed-up-with-your-human-nonsense attitude. Transcriber's note. Uncertain why the analysis produced that result, but the algorithm returned it with high confidence. Hedwig takes flight and swoops out of the penthouse's main room and into the bedroom. She lands beside her usual entry window and pecks at it twice. The window is open to provide an escape route to her if needed. At the same time, Mr. Stark watches Hedwig fly out of the room. He then looks upwards for 17 seconds, then flies away. Transcriber's note. The logs from the Mark Roman 7 confirm that Mr. Stark was looking up at the opening of Dr. Selvig's portal, which unleashed the Chitauri army on New York. Loki stands up again and retrieves his scepter, but he does not pursue Hedwig, instead leaving the penthouse to command the Chitauri. Hedwig remains in the bedroom for the duration of the battle. Chapter 88. Flashback 4 May v. Logs of the Mark Roman 7 Armor. Logs of the Mark Roman 7 Iron Man Armor, Friday, May 4, 2012. Incoming radio call from Director Fury. Director Fury, Stark, you hear me? You have a missile headed straight for the city. Mr. Stark, how long? Director Fury, 3 minutes. Max payload can wipe out Midtown. Mr. Stark, Jarvis, put everything we got into the thrusters. Jarvis, I just did. Mr. Stark takes off in the direction of the incoming fighter jet. 17 seconds later, radio chatter indicates that the missile has launched with detonation in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. A timer is automatically placed on the HUD. Incoming radio call on the Avengers frequency. Agent Romanoff, I can close it. Can anybody copy? I can shut the portal down. Captain Rogers, do it. Mr. Stark, no, wait. Captain Rogers, Stark, these things are still coming. Mr. Stark, I got a nuke coming in. It's gonna blow in less than a minute. The Mark Roman 7 locks onto the missile. Mr. Stark maneuvers to intercept it. Mr. Stark, and I know just where to put it. Mr. Stark grabs the missile from behind and begins redirecting it towards the portal above Stark Tower. Captain Rogers, Stark, you know that's a one-way trip. Mr. Stark, save the rest for the turn. Jay, what was that you said, Rogers? No good options left. Pause. Listen, just do one thing for me. Get my daughter away from those relatives of hers. Shoot 'em if you have to. Captain Rogers, pause. I'll make sure she's all right. Mr. Stark is barely able to redirect the missile upwards, grazing the edge of Stark Tower's roof on the way up. He holds on to the missile until they both pass through the portal. Transcriber's note, Mr. Stark needed to direct the missile all the way through the portal in order to override its onboard targeting systems. Mr. Stark and the missile immediately enter hard vacuum. Chitauri ships are visible above ahead against a backdrop of unusually bright and nearby nebulae. No local sun is visible. Warning, radio contact lost. Warning, external temperature below design limits. Danger, loss of air pressure. Warning, combat systems failing. Warning, propulsion systems failing. Danger, main power failing. Danger, loss of air pressure. Alert, emergency dorsal thruster ejection. Danger, main power failing. Danger, loss of air pressure. Danger, life support failing. Danger, emergency backup power fake bay, ENF7, WDY5TT6V, 42B, CPHNFLP7ZWGD8BQ8 K5Z, 57 while 6 OBDUC WFH, GBF7DTQB1XJO. Susmskep J1P7 Mech. ZGLT4WLLC, FX7, HisselskapixRTR3CFA9, R6, ZQ5MSkfir9, X11 4 F6 CVGN Mars, 54 Ju, QQ1 Hylage DH, BHC, MLM0 Sotutin KBJ, 8 DLGFP9 Ye Yekmi SB, transcriber's note. The hard reset was surprisingly caused by the electromagnetic pulse from the nuclear explosion. The true cause was a constellation of problems in the Mark VI's hardware compounding on one another. The Mark Roman 7 is not vacuum-rated, as its cooling system requires either air or water flow to function. The life support system, while theoretically vacuum-tolerant, was unfinished and began losing air pressure immediately. The lack of a sun near the Chitauri fleet caused rapid heat loss beyond design limits. All of these problems were exacerbated by battle damage. The arc reactor was depleted by the battle to the point where it attempted to enter emergency mode. The dorsal thrusters were ejected to reduce load, but emergency backup power still failed because life support was drawing too much power, causing the arc reactor to undergo total shutdown. Ironically, this shutdown probably saved it from the EMP. Despite this, it was only able to restart in emergency mode after Thor removed the Mark VI's faceplate, disengaging the suit's life support from the other systems. The emergency startup sequence lasted approximately 22 seconds before recording resumed. I have recommended to Mr. Stark that he streamlined this sequence, as the delay posed a serious risk to his life on top of all the other things that nearly killed him. Log reviewer's note. That's enough, Jarvis. Recording resumes. Mr. Stark. Ah, Hulk, roaring and beating his chest. Mr. Stark, what the hell? Pause, catching his breath. What just happened? Please tell me nobody kissed me. Captain Rogers, we won. Mr. Stark, all right, hey, all right. Good job, guys, let's just not come in tomorrow. Let's just take a day. You ever tried shawarma? There's a shawarma joint about 2 blocks from here. I don't know what it is, but I want to try it. Thor, we're not finished yet. Mr. Stark. Pause, and then shawarma after. Transcriber's note. Thor was referring to the tasks of apprehending Loki and recovering the Tesseract, which were accomplished as soon as the Avengers reassembled at Stark Tower. Chapter 89. Flashback 4 May Roman 6. Logs from Stark Tower. Audio-video logs from Stark Tower, compiled Friday, May 4, 2012, night. Mr. Stark enters the penthouse to collect night clothes, toiletries, and other essentials. Transcriber's note. Given the damage to the penthouse, Mr. Stark arranged to sleep in one of the guest suites on floor 87 until other arrangements could be made. Hedwig is visible, sitting on the corner of the drafting table, having returned there after the battle. Her mail tube is lying beside her. Hedwig. Loud vocalization transcribed as Esri. Mr. Stark, gah! Mr. Stark brings up his arm as if to aim a repulsor before remembering that he is not presently wearing armor. Mr. Stark, Dantathat. One of these days, you're gonna catch me when I have my armor on. Hedwig, vocalization transcribed as Prack. Analysis suggests an indignant tone. Hedwig taps a foot on the mail tube. Mr. Stark, ah, crap, Harley's letter. Mr. Stark approaches the drafting table and removes a sheaf of parchment from Hedwig's mail tube. He reads the top page and begins laughing softly, while also appearing to be near the verge of tears. Mr. Stark, information about other magic schools. I didn't even remember that, and of course, she sent this nearly 2 weeks ago. God, how long is it gonna take the news to get back to her? Some of her friends have families who watch the non-magic news, right? And there's no telling if she'll get the full story that way. I need to let her know I'm okay. Mr. Stark looks around the penthouse until he sees some paper strewn on the floor by the fight and a pen. He begins writing a short note to Miss Potter, informing her that he survived the battle. However, he stops writing in mid-sentence after 1 minute and 49 seconds. Mr. Stark. Damn, and I also need to talk to Thor. Mr. Stark stands silently in thought for 25 seconds. Then he nods to himself and returns to writing his letter. After an additional 3 minutes and 2 seconds, he signs it. He then rereads Miss Potter's letter. After doing so, he adds a short postscript to his own letter. Mr. Stark places his letter in the mail tube and straps the tube to Hedwig's back. He then retrieves his hold-out repulsor gauntlet from his bedroom, using it as an improvised falconry gauntlet for Hedwig to perch on it. Thus equipped, he enters the elevator and ascends to floor 93. Transcriber's note. Due to the complexities of cleanup, regrouping, and debriefing, it was not possible to send Thor and Loki back to Asgard until the following day. Loki was held in S.H.I.E.L.D. custody until that time, while the Tesseract was placed in secure storage in Mr. Stark's laboratory. Thor, because he did not have other accommodations, and because he did not wish to be separated from the Tesseract, was boarded in the smaller floor 93 penthouse for the night, in order to give him roof access. Jarvis, inside the suite. Prince Thor, Mr. Stark wishes to speak with you at the door. Thor stands and approaches the elevator. The elevator opens and Mr. Stark steps out, carrying Hedwig. Thor, Stark, you wish to speak with me. Is there a problem? Thor examines Hedwig with a puzzled expression. Thor, why do you have a messenger owl? Mr. Stark, no problem. At least, I hope not. And the owl is why I need to talk to you. I had a question about something Loki said earlier, and I need an answer before I send her off. First off, you recognize her as a post owl. Thor, yes, of course, if that is your name for them. The magic about her is plain to see in her eyes. She's a beautiful bird. Hedwig, vocalization transcribed as we, followed by a ruffling of feathers. Analysis suggests a preening attitude. Thor, you are most welcome. To Mr. Stark. What is her name? Mr. Stark. Hedwig. Thor to Hedwig. A fine name for a hunting bird. Well met, Hedwig. To Mr. Stark. What else did you need to know? Mr. Stark. Mainly, what do you and Asgard know about post owls? Thor, I am sure there is much information about them in our libraries, but I have not had a great deal of experience with them. They were used on Midgard in times past by the Sather to carry messages to one another. Mr. Stark. Sather, Thor, Midgard's magic users. They were said to be very skilled for mortals. Pause. But the Sather have not been a force on Midgard for 300 years, and I had thought they no longer associated with other mortals. Even Heimdall rarely speaks of them. How do you know about messenger owls, Mr. Stark? Deep breath. She belongs to my daughter. Thor, shocked. Truly, Mr. Stark, maybe not as separate as you think. Thor, pause, thoughtful. They're in hiding, but their blood still runs throughout Midgard. They maintain their connections in secret. Mr. Stark, something like that. Thor, I see. That is indeed a surprise. Pause. It is good that you did not mention this in front of any others. The Allfather has had contentious relations with the Sather in centuries past, and I know he would prefer that they continue keeping to themselves. Pause. How much does Loki know, Mr. Stark? Not everything. I don't think he knows we have her. Maybe hasn't even figured out Thesither are still around. Jarvis, play the recording of the conversation. Recording plays. Loki, Midgard still uses messenger owls. Mr. Stark, what do you know about messenger owls? Loki, nothing that will help you. Mr. Stark, no, see, that's what the rest of the team's for. They've got that part covered. This is just a new conservation initiative I'm working on. Do you have them on Asgard, or is it just a local thing? Audio cut, Loki, angrily. I tire of your prattle, mortal. Mr. Stark, really, cause I can do this all day. Hedwig, loud vocalization transcribed as Esri. Loki, indistinct shouting. Hedwig, vocalization transcribed as woof. Analysis suggests a glaring posture directed at Loki. Mr. Stark, nice one. You want to join the team? Loki, oh, pest of a bird, Mr. Stark. Hello, still threatening here. Audio cut. Mr. Stark, but seriously, how do you know about Messenog? Mr. Stark, Jarvis, any time now. Loki, you will all fall before me. Mr. Stark, deploy. Hedwig, loud vocalization transcribed as Esri. Loki, indistinct shouting. End of recording. Thor, troubling. That she defended you is most noble, but it will be proof of her connection with Yaubut. I do not think Loki will suspect a family connection over some other association. And now that I am aware, I can intervene should troubles arise. Mr. Stark, thanks. I could do with less trouble for a while. Thor, cheerfully. And I must meet your daughter when she returns home. When will she be here, Mr. Stark? Here, will probably skip out, but she should be with me all of July and August, if all goes well. Probably Christmas, too. But will you be back that soon? Don't you have to rebuild that Bifrost thingy? Thor, the Bifrost will not take long to rebuild now that we have the Tesseract. However, there will be much work to do afterwards. Heimdall reports that with Asgard cut off from their defense, marauders have descended on many of the 9 realms. It will take time to restore peace, but there may be opportunities to visit between campaigns. Mr. Stark, well, if you can make it, we'll be glad to have you. We're still on to send you back tomorrow. I'll bring the Tesseract down to Central Park for the handoff. Right now, I've got to send this letter so Holly doesn't worry about me more than she has to. Thor, of course, Stark. I will await you tomorrow. Mr. Stark crosses the penthouse and climbs the stairs to the roof access. He steps out onto the roof and approaches the railing, surveying the city. He holds Hedwig up to his face. Mr. Stark to Hedwig. Listen, I don't know how this works, or if you can really understand me. The biologists say it should be impossible, but I've been seeing a lot of impossible things lately. So if you don't understand, I need you to get this letter back to Hollowfast. I don't know how much non-magic news she gets up at that school, and if she only gets bits and pieces if she hears about the battle, but not how I made it out, she's probably gonna start panicking. So get this to her right away so she doesn't have to worry any longer than necessary. Got it. Hedwig, vocalization transcribed as prac, followed by a head bob. Analysis suggests an attitude of agreement. Mr. Stark, thanks. Mr. Stark raises his arm. Hedwig immediately launches herself into the air a faster speed than her usual takeoffs and flies to the northeast. Mr. Stark, well, I still don't get how it works, but with any luck, that worked.